Sunday, June 1st, 2025. It is currently 8:27 p.m. on day 17. The question for day 17 in the book Devotion, the 40 Days of Doubt, Devotions for the Skeptic, it's a day-by-day book. There's a question every day. Today's question is, will God really never give you more than you can handle? My friend Philip was the guy every guy wanted to be, and the guy every girl wanted to be with. He was 6'3", athletic, smart, and funny. He was also one of my best friends. We grew up together in the same small town. We were baptized at the same country church. We played on the same basketball team for most of our childhood. Then in a blink of an eye, Philip was gone. On July 31st, 1995, he turned his Chevy pickup in front of an 18-wheeler, and he was instantly killed. Our tiny, tight-knit community was in shock. Within hours, we all converged on Philip's house to comfort his family. I was 16, and I'll never forget standing in the garage with Philip's dad and brother as they tightly hugged pictures of Philip and sobbed. A local preacher tried to comfort Philip's dad by saying, "I guess Heaven's team needed a good third baseman." Then he asked us all to hold hands as he led us in prayer. He said something like, "We don't understand why things like this happen, Lord, but your word promises us you will never give us more than we can handle." I can't imagine how those words must have sounded to Philip's dad, who rarely stepped foot in a church again after that day. Losing a child is more than anyone can handle, and that happens every day. When Christians say things like, "God will never give you more than you can handle," it feels condescending and dismissive to those who have been utterly broken by the hand they've been dealt. There are two things to remember about that phrase. First, it's taken out of context. God will never give you more than you can handle is rooted in 1 Corinthians 10, verse 13, where Paul is clearly talking about temptation and sin, not pain and loss. No temptation has overtaken you that is not common to man. God is faithful, and he will not let you be tempted beyond your ability, but with the temptation, he will also provide the way of escape that you may be able to endure it. Second, we need to deal with the assumption that God gives us everything that comes our way. So some Christians talk as if everything that happens in the world must be God's will, but not even Jesus believed that. That's why he taught us to pray for God's will to be done on earth as it is in heaven. Matthew 6, verse 11. If it was a given, we wouldn't need to pray for it. Some things that happen to people are not the will of God. Some things that have happened to you were not the will of God. And sometimes it's way more than we can handle. God's promise isn't to be the almighty helicopter parent who protects you from every awful thing. Instead, when it all falls apart, God comes near to you. The Lord is close to the brokenhearted and saves those who are crushed in the spirit. Psalm 34:18. He doesn't wait for you to get it together. He doesn't wait for you to get back in church. He finds you in the darkest places to help show you the way out. God grows your character. Not only so, but also glory in our sufferings, because we know that suffering produces perseverance, character, and character, hope. Romans 5, verse 3 through 4. God will take something that wasn't his will for your life and turn it around for good. He will use your pain to make you stronger, and as you recover, he will give you opportunities to help others who are going through something similar to what you've been through. God restores you. The God of all grace, who call you to his eternal glory in Christ, after you have suffered a little while, will himself restore you and make you strong, firm, and steadfast. 1 Peter 5, verse 10. As you heal, God will strengthen and establish you, giving you the courage to shed the victim mentality that often keeps people in darkness. You may not believe it now, but there will soon be a time when you look back on your worst day and see how God was with you all along. And so I do want to mention, I guess the question is, will God really never give you more than you can handle? The answer is no. And according to the author, if Paul was talking about temptation and sin and not pain and loss, then God will give you a lot of pain and loss that you can't handle, as it states in this installment. It also states in this installment that not everything that is given to you is God's will, which also doesn't make sense if he's all knowing and all powerful, but that's probably another topic for another day. One of the most basic arguments against Christianity is if God's all knowing and all powerful, then free will doesn't exist. Everything's already pre-concluded. But my response is, if a religion can learn to navigate despair, it will become its greatest asset towards indoctrination. That being said, this chapter once again clears up some context, which is always good, if not so utterly disappointing that it needs to be done so often. As well as it tries to subvert God's direct involvement in tragedy. Overall, not much to respond to. Fairly neutral day. It is. It just brings up the classic stuff that people have debates on with Christianity, I suppose. Let me break down my response one by one, actually in reverse order. It tries to subvert God's direct involvement in tragedy, which again, everything in a way is God. If God is all-knowing and all-powerful, then everything, I guess, I don't know how you would define will then, but everything is God's design. So all the tragedies that happen in your life is a direct tie to God and what he designed to happen. At least from my interpretation of what they're trying to say about an all-knowing and all-powerful God. Unless you're saying he's not all-knowing and all-powerful, but again, that's I guess another classic. But moving on to the other thing I said, this chapter does clear up context. In the context of he won't give you more than you can handle, I didn't know that it was about temptation and sin. It makes more sense in that regard of saying, and that just makes more sense. Okay, I understand that. So again, disappointing how much context needs to be cleared up. Like half this book is just clearing up context, which again, I don't know if that's just to save face of the author's interpretation of what the Bible's saying, or if it actually is context that really, really like 100% was just taken out of context by people trying to disprove Christianity. You could play both sides in that. And then the class, this is like the final thing I do want to leave it on. If a religion can learn to navigate despair, it will become its greatest asset towards indoctrination. If you can take someone at their lowest who is desperate for any meaning beyond the tragedy and despair that their life is, if you can learn to find that person and indoctrinate them, that is a very good weapon towards any religion, cult, or ideology. And I guess intent matters, you know. In that case, I'm not really explaining any intent. You know, if you think it'll actually be better for them to turn to an ideology or a religion, you know, it's kind of what it's all about. It's intent. But yeah, if a religion can learn to navigate despair, it will become its greatest asset towards indoctrination. And I 100% still agree with that. Yeah, Christianity does a pretty good job at it. That's why it's important for Christianity to clear up that context that it's not talking about tragedy, because that will push people away, and it's the last thing that a religion needs in order to continue, is to push people away when they're at their lowest. It needs to comfort them. That's why it survived so long. Yeah, anyways, you know, whether you agree with me or you disagree with me, question why. Always question why.